Hi everyone, Empress Justice here, aka Fabian Deacon. Listen, I was just watching Carrie just now, and it's a film that I've actually seen before, but given my current situation and everything that's been going on with me, I've had the chance to look at Carrie with new eyes, right? So it seems like drama as a whole, or the fiction that we write, is revolved around a very, very common frustration: wrong timing, which is usually what happens when people take the line of least resistance and don't go all the way with what they desire to do or what they wish to do. They don't go all the way with it. So what it leads to is us being out of step with the way that we want things to turn out. And thus, that's why kind of things go wrong. And I noticed that a lot in Carrie. I noticed that a lot in this movie. So that's the first thing that I wanted to bring up. But it's just an observation. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just an observation, because it seems to me like a lot of drama is revolved around wrong timing. The second thing that I've observed, right, is that I know the point of horror is to be scary, and I get it. But I think what makes horror is not fear, it's sadness. And I feel that with some of the horrors that we get these days, that there's a lack of tragedy about it. I can't explain it. It's just there's so much focus on, gut stabbing and and there's not enough focus on the tragedy of it all. And I feel like this is a criticism. This is where I feel Carrie gets it right, is because that movie, and indeed Stephen King's writing of that book, it understands that the real horror is not in anger or fear, but pain and sadness, which comes back to that line of least resistance that I told you about, being out of step with your own timing and not giving yourself to your desires. It seems like, again, that's a common theme with all fiction. Only in this case, it played out with a neurodivergent girl abused all her life. Instead of finding peace and happiness, everything just crashes down around her, and that's a really tragic. I'm sorry, spoilers. It's a really tragic outcome to the situation, and I'm sorry, there's going to be spoilers all the way through this. If you have not seen the movie, turn this off right now. Although you have been living under a rock not to see this film, okay? So the thing that I want to mention with Carrie, what she did at that prom was absolutely horrific, but I'm not rooting for her, but at the same time, I'm not blaming her. And I feel like a lot of people are like, yeah, go Carrie, yeah. I was like, yeah, and I'm thinking, I get it. Like, your emotions can get on top of you when people are constantly brutalizing and, and making you feel small. But did that teacher really deserve to die for being a cunt in class? Did the headmaster really deserve to die for getting a name wrong? Like, I mean, Chris and Billy definitely deserve to die. They got a person killed. As did Freddie, he got a person killed. Norma got a person killed. Tommy. So yeah, they deserve what they got. But as for the rest of them, like, I don't know if constant humiliation deserves that. And I feel like, as cathartic as that is, I think what Carrie really captures is not what bullies are actually like. I don't think it captures what bullies are actually like, because they're actually a lot more complex than that. I do think it captures is what bullies become in our eyes when we're the ones being bullied, and how we feel being bullied by everyone. I think That's what this movie captures, the feeling of it. So when we see the weakened, vulnerable, and scared part of ourselves snap and get vengeance, that's where the catharsis comes from, and that's where we start to feel like yeah. But to me, it's just like it just goes to show that revenge is a really complex thing, because there's no right way to do it. And when you're in a blind rage like that, the only thing you see in front of you is the emotion. The only thing you see in front of you is the emotion. You don't see anything else in front of you. You don't even see the people who hurt you anymore. You just see this rage. And it's like you're blind with it. And it's so insidious. And it gets in your head. And it fucks you up. And you end up collapsing everything around you because of that anger. So that's what I saw with Carrie. I didn't see myself in her position getting revenge. I mean, at first, when I saw this movie as a kid, I saw myself as Carrie getting revenge on everybody and getting revenge on the gang stalkers. But the truth of the matter is that now that I'm older, I kind of feel like people will only want to do things when it's too late, and people will only want to do things when something goes to extremes. Like, for me, people like Carrie who are vulnerable and scared and quiet, they need to be a little bit bolder. And with people like Sue and Chris, they need to learn to leave people the fuck alone. Because even with Sue doing a really nice thing, like, all of these people were imposing their will on Carrie. And the thing about a neurodivergent person, they seem frustrating to us because we're not minding our business. That's the truth of it. We see a mentally ill person or a neurodivergent person struggling. We don't mind our fucking business. We don't know how to just stand there, be supportive, be kind, and just give them the space to feel and to work things out for themselves. We don't give them that space to come, to break their own limitations in a way that's comfortable for them. We don't give them that space because we've got shit to do. We don't give them that space. And a normal teenager in the first place needs that space to understand their own emotions, because those emotions are thick. They've got hormonal changes going on. They've got all kinds of pressures and stuff. Like, those pressures are a straight lie, by the way. If nobody's told you, those pressures are a straight lie. So you've got all these pressures of what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Before you've even finished developing, you have to make these big ass life decisions on top of everything else. Your hormones are changing. You're coming to terms with sexuality. On the one hand, you're too young to know about it, but on the other hand, you're too old to be scared of it. So it leaves you in this middling ballpark where you don't know what the fuck to do. And it's bad enough for a normal teenager with a good background. Can you imagine how difficult it is for a neurodivergent girl who's being abused? Come on, man. And before you start saying, I wouldn't do what Carrie did. Stress affects everybody in the same way. We just don't express that in the same way. When you push a person enough, they're going to think to themselves, I want to die and I want everyone else to die. That is a primal instinct in the body. It's a primal instinct in the body that we all have. It's not just one person. It's not just, it's not just neurodivergent people. It's not just mentally ill people. Everybody has that. Some people have more of a, some people have a less extreme breaking point than others. Some people, it takes a lot for them to get to that point, but we all have that point. And when you're a teenager and you're being bullied relentlessly, you're constantly being put under that pressure. And then on top of that, you're neurodivergent. On top of that, your mum's not teaching you the right things. It will make a person snap sooner or later. It's just the ways in which the person snapped it differs. And that's why people can turn around and say, oh, well, I would never do that. Well, of course you wouldn't. But I'm sure you would find other ways to make people hurt. Ordinary people bully each other all the time. That's the second part. That's the second problem that I have with Carrie, right? Exaggerating the bullies to the point of hyperbole, to the point of not giving them a soul, to making them just these big balls of hatred. It's not true to life at all. I mean, there are very few... Listen, ordinary people bully one another every day with the nonsense, okay? But it is very, very rare to find bullies with no soul whatsoever. I'm speaking as a targeted individual. Even perps who are hired to gang stalk me have souls. They have souls, they have feelings, they have hopes, they have dreams, they have fears. They have insecurities just like everybody else does. They're not just these hollow shells or nothing. Do you understand what I mean? And the victims are not always these quiet, shy beings or, what have you. Like, I was bullied, I wasn't like that. I gave people shit back. It's just that the regrets that I have as a kid is that I didn't hurt them enough. Because to them, bullying me was fun and games, so they never really cared about me. So if I couldn't get them back in a way that hurt them as much as they hurt me. That's my one regret throughout my entire school run, throughout my entire education. I didn't hurt people back as much as they hurt me. Because the feeling of them caring about me had to be there in order for that to happen. But... not all victims are these wonderful, innocent people, and not all bullies are these people with no soul, like just no empathy, no nothing. Not all bullies even need a reason to have empathy. Some of them just do, eventually. So it's like, exaggerating these bullies to the point of hyperbole and getting us to sympathize with the victim and making this victim this perfect thing. It kind of creates an effect where people will look at these bullies and say, oh, well, you're not like that. We're not like that. We're good. Be honest. Have we ever called somebody out of their name? Have we ever called them ugly, stupid, crazy? Have we ever dragged the shit out of anybody? Be honest. Even if you feel like they deserve it, and even if they do deserve it, hell, even if you think it's just all in good fun, really and truly, how many of us have done that? It's okay, I'll wait. But we don't see ourselves in these bullies because they're so exaggerated. We don't see ourselves in them. We don't see ourselves in the, in the PE teacher who's just doing too fucking much. We don't see ourselves in the teacher that's being a smug asshole in class. We don't see the head teacher just having the most glib indifference to one of his students. We don't see ourselves in any of these people because they're just so exaggerated. And I get that's the point of the story, but it kind of, in not understanding the complexities of it, we don't understand the wrongfulness of our own actions, and therefore it doesn't give us the room to really learn anything. It just makes us feel like we're the victim all the time. And there are times where I'm going to hold my hands up. There are times where I'm not always the victim. I'm not always the victim. Sometimes I can be mean. Well, less now than I used to be when I was younger. But there have been plenty of times where I just snapped on people for no reason. Do you understand what I mean? There have been plenty of times where I snapped on people for no reason. There are plenty of people who do that, who snap on people who don't deserve it. I've been a victim of bullying for most of my life, but I've had my cheap moments. Do you understand? I've had my cheap moments. Carrie doesn't have any cheap moments. She doesn't have any moments where she's just kind of a bitch out of nowhere. Nor do any of the bullies, apart from Sue, have this moment where they're like, maybe we shouldn't do this. I was literally tortured by a Romanian family in supported housing when I was taking a bath and stuff like that. and she was watching a video of me screaming on the street. That was something I did. I don't know why I did it looking back, but it was cathartic at least. She watched the video of me screaming on the street, shared by the perps, and I swear, I heard her have a moment to herself where she thought, maybe we shouldn't do this to people. Maybe we are in the wrong. And that's a fucking gang stalker. Can you imagine a normal person seeing the effects of what they've done to me and feeling so terrible about it, so awful, so rotted inside? Can you imagine, like, if somebody who has literally been electronically torturing me can feel something, then there is no way in hell that somebody who took a cheap shot against me doesn't have regrets. There's no way. Because at the end of the day, bullies are not all the same. Now, if you wanted to show the complexity of the bullies and then have them die, it would have meant more. Because then it wouldn't have just been empty fulfillment. It wouldn't have just been like empty wish fulfillment. It would have just been like, we're seeing these people get killed, and it could have taken that tragedy a bit further. Do you know what I mean? Because they would have had a change of heart at exactly the wrong time. You get that with some of them, but they would have had a change of heart at just the wrong time. Just the wrong time. It would have added that much more pathos for me, you know? And as for Carrie lighting their asses up, like, again, I can't be mad at her. I think it was a very extreme thing to do, but when you're blinded by rage, you can't see, I have to die, everyone has to die. When you're put under that much stress, you can't see straight. You can't see what's in front of you. So I respect that Carrie was taken in that direction with telepathy and what have you. I respect that she was taken in that direction where you just can't, you snap and you can't see straight. It's very realistic to PTSD symptoms. You get so caught up in the anger and the rage, you can't see the bigger picture. You can't even see what's right in front of your face. Sorry. Don't worry, I'm gonna wash this. But when you've got that much rage, you can't even see what's right in front of you. And I feel like Carrie captured that beautifully. I also like what they did with the blood as well. Like, there was subtle little bits in the mise en scène. There were subtle little parts in, like, for example, the shower scene, right, where Carrie's cleaning up. And I like the little detail that she drops the soap just before she starts her period. So there's this imagery or this symbolism of her feeling unclean as soon as she gets her period, or symbolism of what the mum would have taught her about her period. You're a woman now, you're unclean. Now you're unclean. So I like that little touch there. And I also like the connection between the blood coming out of her and the blood being poured on her. The take said something like it being like a reverse baptism in a way. And I think there's elements of that, most definitely. Avenging angel. An avenging angel baptized by blood. I get that. But what I wanted to actually say was, I feel like the blood poured on her and her reaction after that, it could be a reflection of how society treats women who have their experiences like that. Women on their period is often monsterized and stuff like that. And I feel like with the blood poured on her head and her just snapping and killing everyone, I feel like that's a symbolism of how women, when we become women, we're monsterized in a way. And I really like the detail. I really like like, it's like there's continuity with everything in this film. Like they just thought everything through. And I love the symbolism that they use. And it's such a great movie. It really is. I actually cried when like Carrie had a happy moment. So, knowing what was going to happen, because I've seen it before. I was actually crying when she was happy because I'm thinking, oh my God, she needs this so bad. And then that happened and I'm thinking, oh my God, if only she had had all of this earlier, we might not be here. And a lot of people will talk about how Carrie went to extremes. Even I talked about how this book went to extremes. But the truth of the matter is that Spirit will give us signs of that we need to do things differently. Along the way, Spirit gave Chris signs that she needs to stop reacting with her anger all the time. But her anger was so insidious. It just got to her. It got to her. And Sue needed to just mind her business. Like, all she had to do was just, she didn't have to do all this elaborate stuff with her boyfriend, get her boyfriend involved. All she had to do was say, I'm sorry. Get to know Carrie, like, talk to her, all she had to do was, I'm sorry, I apologize, let's be friends, like, not encroach on one another's space. That's all she had to do. But if she had done that, we wouldn't have Carrie, we wouldn't have the book, we wouldn't have the movie. But this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say that it seems like the what am I talking about? That the core principle of drama is wrong timing. And that, and we are being taught through that lesson of everything at the wrong time, wrong person. We're being taught that if we have something in mind and if there's something that we really want to do, we have to go about it all the way. We cannot just half-ass it. And a lot of people get a lot of things wrong because we half-ass it. We're on the path of least resistance, like I said before. And that's what leads to us doing everything at the wrong time. At the wrong time. As for me, watching Carrie was cathartic for me, but in all the ways I never expected. All the ways I never expected. But we might not like bullies. We might not like bullying idiots in this world. But the bullies really just represent the angry part of ourselves that just won't quit. And the victim, Carrie, it represents the vulnerability that we're trying to kill within ourselves as well. The emotion, the meekness, we're trying to kill that rather than take care of it, rather than treat it with respect. And we all do it. When there is no exemption, we all do it. We all do it. Do you understand? As for kids who are, who come from alternate backgrounds or who are neurodivergent, anyone who's scared, sad, alone, they don't need to be alone, but they do need a lot more emotional space than the average person. They need to do a lot more as well, keep themselves busy, that's true, but they need a lot more emotional space than the average person. They need to have space held for them. And tragically, I feel like they need more space held for them than a lot of people can give or are willing to give. And that's the tragedy about this situation. We have to have emotional space to hold one another. And with everything that we've got going on, we've got to work, we've got to do this, we've got to, a lot of people have to work, not me. I do tarot readings for nothing, and I'm trying to turn it into a business. But with a lot of people working and doing stuff and just distracted in their own little bubble, it pushes out. Sometimes it pushes out the parts of our brain that should have empathy there, and should have compassion there, and should have common sense there. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because we're all so busy, we're all doing our shit. We rush to snap judgments about one another without thinking of the facts first. We form uninformed opinions about the way people behave and why they do what they do. Snap judgments all the time. That combined with the line of least resistance, that's a dangerous path. And many of us are on it. But yeah, Carrie's a damn good movie. I love that movie, but I don't know if I want to watch it again. I've also got Ginger Snaps, which is another teen horror, but I don't know if I want to watch that either. Like, it's just one of those films where it's a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece of a movie, but I don't know if I want to watch it like over and over like that, and knowing how emotional it is behind all the gore and stuff. But yeah, I loved it. I love the movie. But I think I'm just going to stick to light girly shit. I'm sorry. Between the gang stalking, between all the, death threats back and forth, like, between all of that, like, well, not back and forth, but, between, the fucking racism and the fucking ableism and the, stalking and all that shit, I just need to focus on stuff that's a little bit lighter, a little bit easier on the soul, not so heavy. But Carrie's a fucking masterpiece. I'm not even sorry. Carrie is a fucking masterpiece. It's an absolute masterpiece. Criticisms aside, it's amazing. Sissy Spacek is the GOAT. And yeah, all the performances in it are just wonderful, wonderfully done. But I feel like the main lesson to learn from Carrie is, when you're dealing with somebody vulnerable, emotional, be there for them, support them, speak up for them, but give them the space and give them the room to grow in their own time, because they will. In fact, people like that do a better job of growing than the rest of us do. That's something to think about. So anyway, I love you guys. Take care. Peace and blessings. Bye-bye.